I would like to introduce
Niger Weekly Trend, your top sport and weekly roundup stories around Nigeria.
I love Niger Gist.
Featuring politics, sports, lifestyle, and entertainment. Know what trended in Nigeria on the Saturdays of every week.
Feel it.
And we push it.
Never miss a moment.
Thank God it's Saturday. Welcome to Niger Weekly Trend, where we analyze issues this week, which started right from the 24th day till today. The 30th day of March has loads of issues, but you know how we do it. We shop for those stories that drew public debate the most, and I am sure you will love to hear us talk about it. Stay with us. My name is Gazier. We have few stories here, but let's start with the CBN recapitalization. Last week, I told you about the CBN's move to increase the minimum capital base of banks, also known as recapitalization. Just in case you missed out, you can visit our immediate past episode. So this week, on Thursday, the CBN announced the new capital base of banks in Nigeria. While speaking on the development, the Acting Director, Corporate Communications Department, Mrs. Hakama Sidi Ali, said that the new recapitalization threshold for commercial banks with international authorization is at 500 billion naira, while those with national authorization is at 200 billion naira and 50 billion naira for commercial banks with regional authorization. Mrs. Ali also disclosed that the capital base for merchant banks would be 50 billion naira, while the requirements for non-interest banks with national and regional authorization are 20 billion naira and 10 billion naira respectively. And according to a circular signed by the Director of Financial Policy and Regulation Department, Mr. Haruna Mustafa, to all the affected banks, reads that they have a timeline of 24 months starting from April 1st, 2024. That is from Monday, to execute the new capital base. Okay, just in case you don't know how this would be, the CBN is saying that these banks with international licenses, that is Access Bank PLC, Fidelity Bank PLC, First Bank of Nigeria Limited, First City Monument Bank Limited, Guarantee Trust Holding Company PLC, that is GTB Bank, Union Bank of Nigeria PLC, United Bank for Africa PLC UBA, and Zenith Bank PLC will have their capital base moved from the current 50 billion naira to 500 billion naira. Then, these banks with national authorization, Citibank Nigeria Limited, EcoBank Nigeria, Heritage Bank PLC, Keystone Bank Limited, Optimus Bank Limited, Polaris Bank Limited, Stanbic IBTC Bank PLC, Standard Chartered, Sterling Bank PLC, Titan Bank, Unity Bank PLC, and Wema Bank PLC will have their capital base moved from 25 billion naira to 200 billion naira. Also, Globus Bank Limited, Paralex Bank Limited, Premium Trust Bank Limited, Providus Bank Limited, and SunTrust Bank Nigeria Limited as commercial banks with regional authorization have theirs moved to 50 billion naira from the current 10 billion naira. Moving ahead, these merchant banks, Coronation Merchant Bank, FBN West Merchant Bank, FSDH Merchant Bank, Greenwich Merchant Bank, Rand Merchant Bank, and Nova Merchant Bank have their capital base at 50 billion naira. Then for the non-interest banks, that is Jais Bank PLC, Lotus Bank, TAJ Bank Limited, have theirs at 20 billion naira and 10 billion naira respectively. Recall that weeks ago, the CBN governor in a statement said that the CBN would support Nigeria's drive to attain the $1 trillion economy, and of course, this recapitalization is the support system. Now, let us do the math. We have a total of 4 trillion naira capital base for the 8 commercial banks with international authorization, while the total of the 12 commercial banks with national authorization is 2.4 trillion naira. Again, the total of all 5 commercial banks with regional authorization is 250 billion naira, while the total for the 6 merchant banks is 300 billion naira, and the total for the 3 national and regional non-interest banks in Nigeria is about 50 billion naira. So, if all these banks comply, the CBN is expecting a grand total of about 7 trillion naira as the new recapitalization threshold from commercial, merchant, and non-interest banks in Nigeria. But I doubt if all these banks can individually meet up with these thresholds. So we fall back to the analysis by Ernst & Young that says that 17 out of 25 commercial banks in Nigeria may not meet up with the new recapitalization threshold if it falls under a capital multiplier of 10. You can see for yourself in all these reports that the analysis from Ernst & Young is viable. So we pull our lenses to monitor which bank would merge with the other and also the ones that would be acquired. Let's talk about the burial of the 17 slain soldiers. 2 weeks ago, Nigerians woke up with the shocking revelation of the killing of 17 soldiers who were on a peacekeeping mission at Okwama Bomadi local government area of Delta State. And last week, we gave the report, but from a different angle. So this week, on Wednesday, 27th March, they were laid to rest at the National Military Cemetery, Abuja. There is something that happened during their burial ceremony that I must commend Mr. President for. Of course, he was there despite speculations and criticisms that he was going to send a representative. Mr. President Bola Tinubu directed the payment of death benefits to the family members of these slain soldiers within 90 days. On top of that, he made provision of housing facilities for their surviving family members and scholarships for all their children to the university level. He also conferred on them the MON and OON national honors. That is what we are talking about when the government performs right. The press, the media talks about it. Also, when the government performs poorly, the media criticizes. That is why they are the fourth estate of the realm, serving as watchdog to all the activities of the first, the second, and the third estates of the realm. So I use this medium to thank our dear president for what he has done, which of course to a large extent will shelve the weight of the pain and hardship that may fall on their dependents as a result of their death. As always, there is something to pinpoint here. I said on the last episode of our program that the identity of a soldier puts him at risk, and that is what they have signed for. So we cannot estimate the number of others that may fall prey to the attacks of terrorists. Therefore, I question the standard and measures of whatever compensation that comes from the presidency. Will President Bola Tinubu or other future presidents do the same to any soldier that loses his life in the line of duty? I was paying attention to comments, and some have argued that the reason these compensations came this way is due to the weight of the incident and, of course, calls from concerned citizens for them to be adequately compensated. Well, whatever it is, my concern is for the future and possible agitations that may spring up. Let's take, for instance, if a single soldier is killed in line of duty, will Mr. President make provision of housing facility, scholarship to university level for his children? Will he also confer on the person a national honor? Also, what did he do in the case of other soldiers reportedly killed in Katsina and Borno? You see, take this for free. Part of what makes a nation work is when there is a standard measure of dealing with issues. The standard measure I mean here is that Soldier B gets the same compensation Soldier A got when he died. It's easy to streamline these things in the administration of the Nigerian army. So where there is solid administration in an organized system, Mr. President do not necessarily need to spell out compensation benefits. So what do you think would go on the mind of that soldier's wife whose husband may fall prey to terrorist attack and is not compensated as others? Currently, as I speak, many Nigerian soldiers' wives are languishing in poverty and have out-of-school children because there is no standard provision and measure of taking care of them. So aside the death benefits the deceased receive, what other capital benefit or compensation do they receive? So if it was done for Soldier A, it should be done for Soldier B, irrespective of the prominence of his death and his rank. After all, they say once a soldier is always a soldier. Let's get it right. That is all I am advocating for. Moving on, let's go to Osun State. We want to talk about Oro Festival, and you know what? This is a traditional festival that has drawn hundreds of public debates, agitations, and controversies. You may be wondering what Oro is. I too don't even know the meaning of the word, but I know that Oro Festival is a traditional worship in the Yoruba culture. It is a practice that has the community giving reverence and worship to the Orisha Oro, parading the god around communities, and it is exclusively for men. So during the practice, everyone in the communities where Orisha Oro would be paraded stays indoors. But we want to focus on Osun State and developments surrounding the festival. Oba Isoro Dada, the Obaleshu Obatala Agbaye, issued a statement this week before the Oro Festival, which took place on Wednesday. And the statement reads, "This is a special announcement for all dwellers of Ile-Ife on the Oro Owailare Festival that will commence on the 27th March 2024. The Oro will begin exactly at 2 p.m. and will end at 7 p.m. We hereby announce that every dweller of Ile-Ife to stay indoors around these following areas: Ibutapa, Ajamopo, Bodo, Eta Olopo, Oja-Ife, Oramfe, Eta Oramfe, Enuwa Square, Onelare, Sabon Road 7 and Olumobo Street. It will be very good if every dweller in these areas listed above adheres to this instruction for the benefit of Ile-Ife. This is the statement by Oba Isoro before the Oro procession, and there is a reaction by the leadership of the Christian Association of Nigeria in Ile-Ife, led by Reverend Canon Sam Onitiju. He described the 5 hours curfew as illegal while calling on the Osun State Commission of Police to ensure peace in the town. Let me also bring to your notice that last year, 2023, during this same Oro festival and procession, an Imam, Abdul Latif Adediran, and other 5 worshippers who gathered for their 4 o'clock prayers at the Ilari Mosque in Ile-Ife were attacked because they failed to observe the curfew. Away from that, this Wednesday, just a few days ago, the Oro procession happened. There are reports of how the festival crippled business activities in the areas where the procession took place. I frankly understand that Oro Festival did not start recently, and I am also aware the controversies surrounding it, especially when it is about to be celebrated. But one thing I don't have a clue about is the connection between Oro, the Federation of Nigeria, and the Constitution. The little I know about the Constitution of Nigeria makes me question the place of the festival, Oro, the Oro festival, in the affairs of Nigerians. In chapter 4, section 38, that talks about the right to freedom of thoughts, conscience, and religion. I don't have all the time to read out the provision, but I encourage you to go read it yourself. In that section, there is no place restriction of movement was spelled out as a criteria to let one practice his religion. Also, on the provision of the Constitution that talks about freedom of movement. In section 41, this time let me read it out. It says, every citizen of Nigeria is entitled to move freely throughout Nigeria and to reside in any part thereof, and no citizen of Nigeria shall be expelled from Nigeria or refused entry thereby or exit therefrom. Now, this doesn't mean that when the government declares curfew, you have the legitimacy to parade with this provision. This means that the provision of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is absolute and should prevail more than the provisions of any bylaw, constitution, sets of rules, or instructions of individuals, organizations, whatever. So if after years of agitations by those who are not for the Oro festival, that the festival truncates their own activities, yet the government, both state and federal, have not risen up to decisively do something about it, then it should be attached to the section 41 of the Constitution that, look, Nigerians are entitled to freedom of movement, but during Oro festival, Ile-Ife people should remain indoors. There should be clarity. I have observed the Christians, particularly the Catholic denomination, during their yearly Christ the King procession nationwide. They go for this procession in streets without issuing any statement that Nigerians should suspend the activities because they want to worship their Jesus in procession. I observed also that during the Oro festival, Christians were observing their Holy Week, but so many who would have gathered in church or other places for worship on that Wednesday had to stay indoors because others are worshiping their God. And we see the government and institution that is supposed to uphold the provision of the Constitution become lackadaisical You see, we don't just report issues here, but we talk about it and provide solutions on how it affects humanity. Let the government address the lingering agitations and controversies surrounding Oro Festival in Ilif and other places it is celebrated. There are cases of similar incidences that overflooded our public information space. Personally, it gives me concern when I imagine where we are going in all of these as a nation. You may be wondering what I want to talk about. Trust me, it's not smart enough to discuss, but for the sake of the purpose of this program, I found it worthy to discuss. This is about the rising sexual urge of some Nigerian men that amounts to rape and attempted rape. These pockets of incidences that I want to share with you have been happening, but many are not reported, or let's say underreported. And this has made me question the report and study of the psychology and chemistry of men with stress and burden, that when a man has emotional and psychological stress or burden, it tends to decrease his sexual drive. Maybe, just maybe, Nigerian men are exempted on this report. I wonder why we have reports from many parts of this country about rape upon the increasing hardship in the country. Currently, the inflation rate is at 31.7%, and it's surprising to see that these organs are not perturbed at all. Now, let me tell you, this week, there is a report about the arraignment of a man identified as Taiwo Oyelabi at the Ikeja Special Offences and Domestic Violence Court, accused of raping her biological daughter, who was reported to be 4 months pregnant. This happened in Lagos, and guess what? The man confessed to the crime but denied being responsible for her daughter's pregnancy. Wow, I remember someone asked me the chemistry behind the sexual feelings and urge for one's own blood. I couldn't answer because I couldn't justify it. Well, that is one. The second happened in Oka, Anambra State. A man identified as Kenneth Wangu was sentenced to 10 years imprisonment by the Children, Sexual and Gender-Based Violence Court sitting in the High Court in Oka for defiling his 9-year-old daughter and only child. Report also revealed that this man is separated with the wife and has her only daughter in his care. And I ask, was he sex-starved to have resorted to gaining satisfaction from a minor? What on earth can justify this dirty act? It's unfortunate, very unfortunate. And the third report happened in Osun State. The Amotekun Corps arrested and handed over to the National Agency for Prohibition on Trafficking in Persons a man named Taufik Oyekola, who is 26 years old, for using a magic ring to lure a teenager of age 15 to his residence in Oshobo, where he allegedly attempted to rape her. Well, according to the narration of the Amotekun spokesperson Idowu Yusuf, that this girl boarded the vehicle of the accused man. So along the way, he used the voodoo ring to hit her victim, which made her lose consciousness, and immediately was diverted to his residence, and he attempted to rape her. So many stories surrounding this incident, but for using voodoo power to gain satisfaction, I wonder, and I don't even want to stress my brain to think whether there is a diabolical purpose attached to his action. The next one happened in Rivers State, where a girl of age 13 was abducted and defiled by a man identified as Prince in Obogoro community in Obiakpo local government area. Reports said that this man forced the teenage girl to his residence when she was on an errand, and she was held for 2 days before she was released to go home. So when the mother of this girl checked her, she discovered that the girl had been raped. So no one at the time of the incident can ascertain how many times the girl was raped, and it was after these incidents that I came across a similar incident from same Obogoro community on February, but was between a 42-year-old man with his 2 gang members abducted a 12-year-old girl to an uncompleted building where she was defiled for days. You have heard all of these because they came to the notice of the press, and a lot are even happening not reported. Let me leave you to analyze these issues yourself to know what could be done to salvage our community from these ugly incidences. Also, as a concerned citizen, how do you look out for that teenage girl around you? You too can be a watchdog and a whistleblower to some of these ugly incidences. The rape incidences in Nigeria are becoming epidemic, spreading like wildfire, and if you turn blind eyes to them, it may sooner happen to your own daughter or your sister, who knows. Let's talk about Bobrisky's award. Of course, it came to light this week. The Nigeria entertainment industry was in flame this week with criticisms on what happened during the red carpet at the Lagos premiere of Ajanoku, Beast of Two Worlds, a film produced by Nigerian filmmaker and actress Eniola Ajao. You might be aware of this story, how a Nigerian transgender and cross-dresser, Idris Okuneye, popularly known as Bobrisky, won the Best Dressed Female during the premiere of Ajanoku with a cash sum of 1 million naira. And following these developments, Nigerians took to their social media handles to express their displeasure, saying, how can a man dressed and behaves like a woman win an award deserve to be given to real women? And even during the premiere award, there was discontent and exchange of words among the attendees. I was even surprised. Probably it was an error, but it was deliberate. So just in case you've not heard this version of the story, Eniola Ajao, in an interview with Arise News TV, said that the reason Bobrisky was awarded the Best Dressed Female was to promote her film, to make it gain the desired publicity. But did the film Ajanoku gain the publicity she wanted? Did it mar her production? Well, I wouldn't know. Let's watch and see. You know, people do different things in the name of marketing just to attract attention either to themselves or to what they represent. I recall last week and even early this week, the trended statement of the founder of Madonna University, Reverend Father Professor E.M.P. Ede, that it is only in the school that girls graduate as virgins. When I analyzed the issue, I looked beyond the statement and criticism surrounding it. What I saw was the power of words and sentiments to project the school to the minds of people who are not aware of her existence. But trust me, I never knew about the film Ajanoku until the award of Bobrisky started trending. And trust me, these things just have a way it works for many people with their brands. Next is sports after this break.
Come on. Together. Biaka ibiri no funuo Omu wanye no mwikorobia Anamajuno Oleye mereno weji alwaku Our strength is in our diversity.
Let's live together.
Can you be real? No funo.
Let's live together.
No funo.
Let's live together.
I say, mo can you be real? No funo.
Gashi, young wana, Muzama Tare, Muzama Daya, Mugina Kasamu, Tai Karfi, Reke Hanuna, Muzama Tare, Muria Mudabane, Amamu Hadu, Muifana Damaki Mud, young wana, Muzama Tare, Muzama Daya, Mugina Kasamu, Tai Karfi, Reke Hanuna, Zaka Ia Zoko Kaida Hausa, Zaka Ia Zoka Kaida Yoruba, Zaka Ia Zoka Kaida Igbo, Zaka Ia Zoko Kaida Ibibio.
Our diversity is our strength. Let's live together as one.
Welcome back. In sports, this week, the Super Eagles of Nigeria suffered a 2-0 defeat to Mali in an international friendly match held in Marrakesh, Morocco. And before the match on Tuesday, many fans anticipated victory, but unfortunately, it was another disappointment from the Super Eagles just after their loss against the Elephants of Cote d'Ivoire in the just concluded AFCON. Well, in every tournament, there must be a winner, but I was expecting too that the Super Eagles would have used the international friendly to at least compensate Nigerians and put smiles on their faces. That never happened anyway. But in reaction to the outcome of the match, the Super Eagles interim coach, Finidi George, attributed the defeat to costly errors made by his team. We continue to hope, especially now the FIFA World Cup qualifiers is around the corner. So we are rooting for the Super Eagles to give us a sound defeat against South Africa and Benin Republic. Alright, it is with that sports story we call it a day on this week's Niger Weekly Trend. By God's grace, we shall be here next week to talk about more. Always remember to be a good citizen of wherever you are listening from. My name is Gozie. Have a lovely weekend and a pleasant new week. Bye.